The rain poured like shards of glass, sharp, relentless, and cold. New York streets blurred under flickering streetlights as Maya Collins stood beside her broken car, holding her daughter close under a trembling umbrella. Her expensive blazer clung to her like a cruel reminder. She was once the woman everyone envied. Now she was just a soaked mother begging time to stop. Her little girl Ella turned 6 today. Her golden curls were damp, her pink birthday dress spotted with rain. She clutched a half-deflated balloon and whispered, "Mommy, will Daddy come to my birthday this year?" Maya froze. Her lips parted, but no words came out. Daddy, a word that stabbed through her chest every time. The truth was there was no Daddy. There had never been. Ella's father had left before she was even born, leaving Maya to face pregnancy, boardrooms, and heartbreak, and all alone. But tonight, everything had fallen apart. The restaurant booking for Ella's birthday was canceled. The catering staff refused to come after a storm flooded downtown. And now her car had died, 1 mile from home, 1 hour before her daughter's little party. Maya's mascara mixed with the rain as she forced a smile. "Of course, sweetheart, Daddy. Might be late, but he'll come, okay?" Ella smiled, her tiny hand tightening around her mother's. "I'll wait. He always comes in my dreams." Maya's chest tightened, guilt and exhaustion fighting inside her. She looked up at the gray sky and whispered to herself, "Please, not tonight. Not on her birthday." That's when a black SUV pulled over beside them. The window rolled down, and through the mist a man's face appeared, rugged, calm, concerned. "You need help?" His deep voice cut through the rain. Maya hesitated. Her instinct screamed no. She didn't talk to strangers. But then she saw Ella shivering in her arms. The stranger stepped out, holding his jacket over his head. "I'm fine," she began, but he interrupted gently. "You're not." He looked at the car, the broken tire, the flickering hazard light, then at Ella's trembling lips. He crouched beside the little girl, voice softening. "Hey, princess. Is it your birthday?" Ella nodded shyly. "Mommy said Daddy's coming." The man looked up at Maya. For a brief second, silence. Their eyes met, and something unspoken passed between them. Maya's heart pounded. She had an idea. A crazy, desperate, impossible idea. She took a deep breath, her voice trembling as she said it. "Sir, I know this sounds insane, but could you pretend to be my husband? Just for one night, please." The rain hit harder. The man blinked, stunned. "Excuse me?" "My daughter. She's waiting for her father," Maya said, choking on her words. "She's been dreaming about him for years. I never had the heart to tell her the truth. Tonight is her birthday, and her voice cracked. "I can't break her heart again." He stared at her. The proud CEO now shivering, pleading, her hand clutching her child's balloon like a lifeline. Maya's voice dropped to a whisper, trembling. "Please, just pretend." For her, the man stood silently, rain dripping from his hair. He looked at Ella's hopeful eyes, her tiny smile. Something inside him softened, something he hadn't felt in years. Finally, he nodded slowly. "All right. I'll do it," Maya exhaled, and a shaky, tearful breath. Relief washed over her like the first ray of sun after a storm. "Thank you," she whispered, almost breaking. He extended his hand slightly, almost awkwardly. "My name's Daniel Reed, and you are?" Maya Collins." He gave a faint smile. "Let's go make your little girl's wish come true, Mrs. Reed." The title, the lie, hung in the air, both heavy and strange. But at that moment, under the relentless rain and city lights, it didn't feel like a lie. It felt like a beginning. As Daniel helped Ella into the SUV, Maya glanced at him, this stranger who appeared from nowhere on the night her world was collapsing. Her heart whispered something she didn't want to admit. Maybe miracles don't come in the shape we expect. The car drove away, headlights slicing through the rain. Ella giggled in the back seat, humming a birthday tune, her voice pure and full of hope. Maya turned her face to the window, silent tears blending with raindrops. Beside her, Daniel glanced over, then quietly said, "Don't worry. Tonight, she'll have her father." The storm had eased by the time they reached Maya's apartment, a modest 2-bedroom flat in the quieter part of the city. The building wasn't what people expected from a millionaire CEO, but then again, nothing in Maya's life looked the way people imagined it. As Daniel carried Ella, Fast asleep in his arms, Maya unlocked the door. The apartment smelled faintly of vanilla candles and coffee, the kind of warmth she had tried to preserve for her daughter. Even when everything else fell apart, "Just lay her down here," Maya whispered, pointing to the couch. Daniel nodded, his movements surprisingly gentle for a man with rough, calloused hands. He placed the little girl down carefully, pulling a small pink blanket over her. Maya watched him in silence. He didn't ask questions, didn't pry, just moved with quiet understanding. For a moment, she wondered who he really was. He finally turned toward her. "You sure she won't wake up?" "She sleeps like a rock after crying herself tired," Maya said softly, trying to smile. Daniel frowned slightly. "She cried today? She always cries a little on her birthday. She misses someone who never existed." The silence between them deepened, heavy but not uncomfortable. Maya walked to the window, looking at the city lights reflecting off the rain-soaked streets. Her reflection stared back at her. The same woman who once ruled corporate rooms, now standing in a wrinkled suit, makeup washed away by rain and tears. She took a deep breath. "You probably think I'm insane, asking a stranger to pretend to be my husband." Daniel shook his head. "I think you're a mother." That one line hit her harder than she expected. She blinked away a tear before it could fall. He looked around at framed photos on the wall, most of them just Maya and Ella. In one picture, Maya stood in front of a massive glass building, shaking hands with board members. Her eyes were bright, full of fire. "You were successful?" he asked. She let out a dry laugh. "Was." She pulled her hair into a messy bun and sat down, her exhaustion finally catching up. "I started a company from scratch, real estate development. By 29, I was a CEO. People called me unstoppable. They didn't see the nights I slept in my office or the weekends I spent alone while my team had families to go home to." Daniel listened quietly, hands in his pockets. "But it all fell apart when I got pregnant. The investors pulled out. Clients disappeared. My ex, well, let's just say he didn't want a baby getting in the way of ambition." She smiled bitterly. "So he left, and I stayed." She rubbed her forehead, the memories flooding back. "I thought I could balance it all. Motherhood, business, reputation. But when the market crashed, I lost half the company. The rest went trying to keep my employees paid. I told myself it was worth it, until I couldn't pay rent anymore." Daniel's eyes softened. "And yet, you're still standing." "I have to," she said, voice trembling. For her, they both looked toward Ella, tiny fingers clutching the edge of her blanket, breathing softly in sleep. "She deserves the world," Maya whispered. "But I can barely keep the lights on." Daniel stepped closer, lowering his voice. "You kept her heart lit. That counts for something." His words lingered in the air, simple, honest, warm. Maya hadn't heard something like that in years. Then, without warning, her phone buzzed on the table. She grabbed it instinctively, a message from her landlord. "Rent due tomorrow, no more extensions." Her throat tightened. The storm outside might have calmed, but the one inside her chest only grew stronger. Daniel noticed her expression but said nothing. Instead, he poured himself a glass of water from the kitchen and quietly asked, "You said you only needed me for tonight, right?" Maya nodded weakly. "Yes, just tonight. Tomorrow you'll never see us again." But even as she said it, she didn't believe her own words. There was something about this man, something steady, grounding, that made her heart whisper, maybe one night isn't enough. From the couch, Ella stirred in her sleep, mumbling, "Daddy, don't go." Maya's breath caught. Daniel looked at the sleeping girl, then back at Maya, and in his eyes, for just a flicker of a second, she saw it. Pain. A hidden old pain that mirrored her own. Neither of them spoke after that. The rain began again, tapping softly against the window like a lullaby for two broken souls who didn't yet know they were about to heal each other. The next morning, sunlight broke through the curtains, pale and hesitant, as if unsure whether to bless this little apartment with warmth. Maya awoke to the faint smell of pancakes. For a moment she panicked. She hadn't cooked anything. Then she saw him, Daniels, in her tiny kitchen, flipping pancakes with a calm focus that didn't fit the chaos of her life. He looked completely out of place, like a piece of quiet dropped into her storm. "Good morning," he said without looking back. Hope you don't mind. Your daughter requested smiley pancakes. Maya blinked, speechless for a moment. You stayed? He smiled faintly. She was too excited. I didn't want to ruin her morning. Ella came running out, her little feet pattering on the cold tiles. Mommy, Daddy made breakfast, she squealed, beaming. Maya's chest ached at the word Daddy. She didn't correct her, not yet. Daniel turned with a plate in hand. For the birthday princess, Ella giggled, taking the plate with both hands like it was the most precious thing in the world. The pancakes were uneven, shaped like awkward smiley faces, but her joy made them look perfect. Maya leaned against the counter, watching them. The laughter, the smell of pancakes, the sound of clinking forks, it all felt foreign, yet heartbreakingly familiar, like the echo of a life she had once dreamed of. By noon, Daniel was gone, leaving a polite note on the counter. Thank you for letting me help. She's a wonderful kid. Maya folded the note carefully, pressing it against her chest for a moment longer than she meant to, but reality returned fast. She changed into her gray blazer, one of only two she still owned, and hurried to her office building. Her office wasn't the gleaming tower it used to be. It was now a shared workspace with flickering lights and a leaky ceiling. She ran her small real estate consultancy alone, struggling to keep her last few clients. Every day was the same rhythm of exhaustion, working through lunch, ignoring hunger, forcing smiles for clients who doubted her capability now that she was just a single mom. In the evening, she'd rush to pick up Ella from daycare. Sometimes Ella would already be waiting outside, holding her tiny backpack, waving when she saw her mom's car. Mommy, did you sell a big building today? Not today, sweetheart. That's okay. You'll sell 2 tomorrow. Her optimism was infectious. Even when they ate ramen noodles again for dinner, Ella would slurp them joyfully and say, "This is my favorite." But there were nights Maya cried quietly while washing the dishes, tears hidden behind the sound of running water. She tried everything. Late-night freelance design work, tutoring, even delivering groceries under an alias. Still, every dollar vanished faster than it came. Rent, school fees, groceries, and yet, every morning she'd wake up, look at her daughter and whisper, "One more day." Maya, just one more day. One evening, a week later, Maya returned home from work, drenched in rain again, heels muddy, her spirit near breaking. Ella ran to her with a crayon drawing in hand. "Mommy, I drew Daddy." Maya froze. The drawing showed 3 stick figures, her, Ella, and a tall man with brown hair and kind eyes. Daniel. Maya's hands trembled as she took the drawing. "Sweetheart, you remember him?" Ella nodded happily. "He said he'll come back. I told my friends at school my daddy's coming for family day." Maya's heart sank. She hadn't seen Daniel since that night. "Ella," she said gently, kneeling. "You know he's not." Before she could finish, a knock came at the door. Her breath hitched. When she opened it, there he was, rain dripping from his jacket, that same calm look in his eyes. "Hey," Daniel said softly. "You left your wallet in my car that night. Thought I'd bring it back." Ella screamed with joy and jumped into his arms. "Daddy, you came." Daniel froze, surprised, awkward, but then his arms wrapped around her naturally. "Yeah, I came back." Maya's eyes glistened. "You didn't have to, I know," he interrupted gently, "but maybe I wanted to." He looked around the dim apartment, the peeling wallpaper, the flickering bulb, the unpaid bills scattered on the table. And then he looked at Maya, whose strength was starting to crack. "You're doing all this alone?" She hesitated, then nodded. He sighed quietly, then said, "Maybe you don't have to anymore." She blinked. "What do you mean?" He smiled, that same small, quiet smile. "Let me help. Just for a while." Maya wanted to refuse. Her pride screamed no. But then she saw Ella, her little hands clinging to Daniel's sleeve, her eyes sparkling with happiness she hadn't seen in months. Maya swallowed the lump in her throat and whispered, "Okay." Just for a while. And in that fragile moment, the woman who had built empires realized something. Sometimes, strength isn't standing alone. Sometimes it's allowing someone to stand beside you. Days turned into weeks. Daniel became a familiar presence in their small apartment, not as an intruder, but as a quiet rhythm of warmth they didn't know they needed. He fixed the squeaky door. He brought groceries when Maya worked late. He walked Ella to school in the mornings, carrying her tiny pink backpack as she skipped beside him. At night, laughter returned to the apartment, laughter that had once felt extinct. One evening, the three of them sat at the small kitchen table. The scent of pasta filled the air. Ella was busy making meatball towers, giggling every time they toppled over. "Mommy, Daddy's cooking is better than yours," she teased playfully. Maya shot Daniel a mock glare, hiding her smile. "Oh, really? I see betrayal runs in the family now," Daniel chuckled. "In my defense, the chef accepts hugs as payment." Ella squealed and hugged him tightly. Maya watched them, and something inside her shifted. The way he laughed, the way he looked at her daughter like she was his own. It wasn't acting anymore. Her heart whispered, "He fits here." But the thought scared her. After dinner, when Ella went to bed, Maya stood by the balcony, the city glowing beneath them, cold wind brushing her hair. Daniel joined her, holding 2 mugs of coffee. "You're quiet tonight," he said softly, "just thinking." "About?" She hesitated. Then finally, "About how dangerous it is to get used to something that isn't real." Daniel looked at her, truly looked. "You mean us?" She turned away. "This you being here. Ella calling you daddy. It's all borrowed happiness, Daniel. One day you'll leave, and I'll have to explain to her why Daddy disappeared again." He didn't respond right away. His jaw tightened slightly, his eyes distant. Then quietly he said, "Maybe I'm not planning to disappear." Maya froze, her heart skipping a beat. He continued, voice lower now, almost vulnerable. "There's something I haven't told you." "About me?" She turned confused. "What do you mean?" Daniel sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I wasn't just some guy passing by that night. I used to know your company." Maya frowned. "My company?" "Collins Properties?" He nodded. "I was one of your contractors. Back when you were building those luxury apartments downtown. But then my wife got sick. I couldn't keep up with payments. I lost everything. When she passed, I stopped working. Stopped caring." Her breath caught. "Daniel, I didn't know." "You couldn't have," he said, his tone gentle. "You were just doing business. I don't blame you. But that night when I saw you and your daughter in the rain, I recognized you, and I saw something I hadn't seen in years. Someone still fighting." Maya's throat tightened. The world felt suddenly still. He stepped closer. "So when you asked me to pretend, I thought maybe this was a way for both of us to start over. Even if just for a week." Her eyes glistened with tears she couldn't hide. "Daniel," but before she could say more, a small voice called from behind the door. "Mommy, Daddy? Can you read me a story?" Maya and Daniel froze, eyes locked, emotions swirling between them. He smiled softly. "Storytime calls." He walked away, leaving Maya standing there, heart pounding, mind spinning, soul trembling between fear and something she hadn't felt in years, hope. Later that night, she peeked into Ella's room. Daniel sat beside her bed reading softly, his voice steady and calm. And the brave princess said, "Even the smallest candle can light the darkest castle." Ella's eyes fluttered closed, smiling. "Daddy, you sound like a hero." Maya's breath hitched. Daniel looked up at her quietly. Their eyes met, and in that moment, under the soft glow of the night lamp, something unspoken passed between them again. He wasn't just pretending anymore. Neither of them were. But life has a cruel way of testing happiness the moment it dares to bloom. The next morning, Maya received a letter at her office, one that made her blood run cold. "Notice of foreclosure. Your property is subject to repossession due to unpaid loan balance." Her hands shook. The apartment, the one place Ella called home, gone, unless she could pay in 10 days. Her vision blurred with tears. She pressed her forehead to the desk and whispered, "Not again. Please, not again." That evening, when Daniel came to pick her up, she tried to hide the letter, but he noticed. "Maya, what's wrong?" "It's nothing," she said quickly, stuffing the envelope into her bag. He gently caught her wrist. "Don't shut me out." Her walls crumbled. "They're taking our home, Daniel. Everything I worked for, gone." He looked at her, expression unreadable. Then, with quiet resolve, said, "Then I'll fix it." "Daniel," he shook his head. "No arguments. I owe you that much, she frowned, tears streaming. You don't owe me anything, he smiled sadly. Maybe not. But maybe helping you is how I finally forgive myself for not saving the person I loved before. Her breath trembled. Their eyes locked, too long, too close. For a moment, the world outside ceased to exist. And then softly, Maya whispered, "What are you doing to my heart, Daniel Reed?" He smiled faintly, maybe just reminding it how to beat again. 3 days had passed. 3 days since Daniel promised to fix it. 3 days since he vanished. No calls, no messages, nothing. Maya stood by the window every night, staring at the street below, at every passing car that wasn't his. The coffee on her table grew cold. Her laptop screen blinked with unpaid invoices. The clock ticked louder than her heartbeat. Ella's laughter, once constant, had quieted. "Mommy," she asked softly one night, clutching her stuffed rabbit. "Did Daddy go away again?" Maya froze. Her throat tightened painfully. She forced a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "He's busy, sweetheart." "But he'll come back." Ella tilted her head. "He promised." "Yes," Maya whispered. "He promised." When Ella fell asleep, Maya sat on the couch, staring at the eviction notice lying on the coffee table. The final deadline, 48 hours. Her hands shook as she dialed Daniel's number again, straight to voicemail. She slammed the phone down, tears spilling freely. "Why did you make me believe again?" She whispered into the silence. "Why did you let her believe?" The rain started again outside, soft, almost cruelly familiar. She pulled her shawl tighter and stared at Ella's drawing on the fridge, the one with 3 stick figures holding hands. Her vision blurred. "Maybe I was wrong," she whispered. "Maybe I was never meant to have a home. Maybe love isn't for people like me." The next morning, she forced herself to dress and go to work. Her reflection in the elevator mirrored exhaustion, hollow eyes, sleepless nights, lipstick hiding the cracks of heartbreak. Her secretary, Lena, met her with a worried look. "Ma'am, there's someone waiting in your office." Maya frowned. "I don't have any meetings today." She walked in and froze. Daniel was standing by the window. Her heart stopped. He looked different, tired, unshaven, his jacket wrinkled. But his eyes, still calm, still full of that quiet strength. "Daniel," her voice broke. "Where were you?" He turned, guilt written across his face. "I had to disappear for a bit. To fix what I promised. You disappeared for 3 days. Ella cried herself to sleep. You could have called," he interrupted gently. "If I told you, you would have stopped me." Her voice rose. "Stopped you from what?" He reached into his coat pocket and placed a stack of papers on her desk. "From selling my truck. From taking out what little I had left. From paying off your overdue balance." Maya's eyes widened in disbelief. "What did you just say?" "You won't lose your home," he said softly. "It's taken care of." She shook her head. No, Daniel, you can't, you shouldn't have." He smiled faintly. "I wanted to. It wasn't about money. It was about keeping a promise. And doing something right for once." Tears welled in her eyes. "You barely know me." He stepped closer, voice trembling now. "Maybe. But I know how it feels to lose everything. I know what it's like to watch someone you love suffer while you can't do a damn thing. I wasn't going to watch it happen again." Maya's tears fell freely. "Why are you doing this?" "Because," he whispered. "You and Ella reminded me what hope looks like." The silence that followed was fragile. So fragile that even breathing felt dangerous. Maya pressed her hand to her mouth, sobbing softly. "You're unbelievable." He gave a small, sad smile. "Yeah, my accountant said the same thing." She laughed through her tears, a broken, beautiful sound. But just as hope began to rise again, fate struck back cruelly. That night, as they were having dinner together, Maya's phone buzzed. An emergency alert, severe storm warning, flash flooding expected across downtown. Ella clung to Maya's arm. "Mommy, I'm scared." Maya smiled gently. "It's just rain, sweetheart." But an hour later, water began seeping under the door. By midnight, the entire ground floor was flooded. Maya lifted Ella into her arms, trying to keep her calm. Daniel waded through the rising water, shouting, "Upstairs, go!" They climbed to the second floor as thunder cracked the sky open. Ella cried, "Mommy, the lights!" As the room plunged into darkness, Maya held her tight. "It's okay, baby. Daddy's here," but when she turned, Daniel was gone. Daniel? She screamed over the roaring wind. No answer. She rushed toward the window, saw him outside, chest deep in water, trying to pull their neighbor's kid from a submerged car. Daniel, no, she cried, banging on the glass. He looked back once, rain pouring down his face, and mouthed, "Stay with her." Then he disappeared beneath the flood. Maya's scream tore through the storm. Hours later, rescue boats arrived. The storm had subsided, leaving destruction behind. Maya clutched Ella tightly, eyes red, refusing to leave the balcony until they found him. "Mommy," Ella whispered weakly. "Daddy will come back." "He promised." Maya looked toward the dark waters, voice breaking. "He always keeps his promises, doesn't he?" Morning came slowly, gray and heavy, as if the sky itself was mourning. Maya sat on the hospital bed beside her sleeping daughter. Both were wrapped in donated blankets. Their hair still smelled faintly of rain and smoke. The flood had destroyed their apartment. Everything. Gone. Everything except Ella's drawing, crumpled but intact, clutched tightly in Maya's trembling hand. The door opened quietly. A nurse stepped in, her tone soft but serious. "Ms. Collins, there's someone asking for you downstairs." Maya's breath caught. "Daniel?" The nurse nodded gently. "He's in the ER. He was brought in a few hours ago." Maya's world stopped. She jumped up, nearly tripping over the IV stand. Her legs shook as she ran through the hallway, the scent of antiseptic and rainwater mixing in the air. When she entered the emergency ward, she saw him, lying on the bed, bruised, soaked, but alive. His eyes opened slowly. "Maya," he whispered. Tears spilled down her face. She grabbed his hand, pressing it to her lips. "You idiot," she sobbed. "You promised me you wouldn't disappear again." He smiled faintly, wincing from pain. "Didn't plan to, just took a little detour." "You could have died," she whispered. He looked at her, eyes glassy but warm. "But the kid's safe. That's all that matters." Maya shook her head, crying harder. "No, you matter. Don't you get it? You matter to us." For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Only the steady beeping of the heart monitor filled the silence. Then quietly, Daniel reached into his jacket pocket, still damp, and pulled out a small box. "I was going to give this to Ella after the storm," he said weakly. "But I guess now's better." Maya opened the box. Inside was a silver locket shaped like a heart. Inside, a tiny photo of the three of them, taken the morning of Ella's smiley pancakes. Her tears fell harder. "Where did you even—" "Ella gave me her favorite crayon drawing," he said, smiling. "I had it printed. Thought she deserved something permanent." Maya covered her mouth, trembling. "You saved us, Daniel," he shook his head. "No, Maya, you saved me." 3 weeks later, the flood had passed, the city rebuilding slowly. Maya's company, once nearly gone, had received community recognition after she used the last of her business funds to help rebuild affected homes. News stations called her the CEO with a heart, but none of that mattered as much as the small house they now shared, just on the edge of town. With a white fence and a garden Ella had started planting marigolds in. Daniel walked out with a tray of lemonade, his arm still bandaged. Ella ran up and hugged him tightly. "Daddy, look. My flowers are growing," he smiled. "They're growing because you loved them enough." Maya stood on the porch, watching them with a soft smile. Her heart, once so guarded, now beat freely. Daniel looked up at her. Their eyes met, and this time there was no pretending. No lies, no fear, just truth. She walked toward him, sunlight brushing her hair. "So, how long are you staying this time?" He smiled, eyes glinting. "You said you needed a husband for a week. I was thinking of extending the contract indefinitely." Maya laughed, a real, light, beautiful laugh. "I'll have my lawyer draw up the papers." He grinned. "Deal." Ella jumped between them, holding their hands. "Can I sign too?" They both laughed. Daniel lifted her up, spinning her around as she squealed with joy. The golden sun bathed them in warmth, the sound of laughter mixing with the distant hum of life returning to normal. That night, after putting Ella to bed, Maya stood by the window, the same window where she had once cried over a broken car and a broken life. Now the air smelled like peace. Daniel came up behind her, wrapping his arm gently around her shoulders. "You still watch the rain," he said softly. She smiled faintly. It used to remind me of everything I lost. She turned, resting her forehead against his chest. Now it reminds me of the night I found everything that mattered. He kissed her forehead gently. In the darkest nights, Maya, the smallest light can still show us home. She closed her eyes, whispering, "You were that light." Weeks turned into months. The storm had left scars, but it also left roots of something stronger. Maya rebuilt her company, this time with Daniel as her partner, in life and in business. Ella started school proudly telling everyone, "My daddy came back." He always does. And every evening when the sky turned orange and the rain began to fall softly, Maya would smile through the window, holding the locket in her palm. A reminder of the night love came disguised as a stranger. In the darkest nights, even one act of kindness can change everything. Maya begged a stranger to pretend. But what she found was real. Love, hope, a home. If you believe kindness can heal hearts and change lives, please like, subscribe, and share this story.